and also understanding it, I would like to, first of all, Mr. Mugisha, you're welcome to Good Morning Uganda.
Thank you so much. Good morning, viewers. I'm happy to be at UBC once again. My name is James Mugisha, Commissioner Compliance and Enforcement at Equal Opportunities Commission.
Right. Now, first of all, help us understand what is the mandate of the Equal Opportunities Commission.
Thank you. The mandate of Equal Opportunities Commission is derived from the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. Act 32 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda gives Equal Opportunities the mandate of redressing the imbalances and promote equal opportunities for all. So the Equal Opportunities Commission is there to operationalize the mandate that was derived in the Constitution, and it has been doing that since 2007. The Equal Opportunities Commission, that's when it came into play, but it started operations in 2010. And it's supposed to redress the imbalances and promote equal opportunities for all.
Okay.
Yes.
Now let's get into the report, and we will start with Chapter 3, which is Planning, Budgeting and Resource Allocation in line with gender and equity requirements. What are some of the emerging issues identified by the Commission from the National Planning and Budgeting process?
Yeah, thank you, Olive. In accordance, as you've said, this is our 11th annual report on the state of Equal Opportunities Commission. This report addresses the gaps that we have in the country. So this section that you have mentioned, it's in accordance with Section 13 of the Public Finance Management Act, CAP 171, where the Commission is mandated to conduct the assessment of the national budget. As we talk right now, we are even conducting the assessment for the budget for the financial year 2025-2026. So this is where we do the assessment of the budget, and these are the key issues that were found in the budget for the current financial year we're implementing. One, there were high costs of debt repayment. The budget that we are implementing right now, 34 trillion out of the 72 trillion is going to pay the debts. That is approximately 47.9%. That's a very, very huge burden for us as a country. We are facing that challenge and we have to bear it, but it is affecting other key areas. The education sector, the health sector is being affected because of that debt repayment. It's a huge burden, and we must get sure that we get solutions to that. Secondly, Uganda has a huge wage bill, which is equivalent to 11% of the total budget of the national budget that we're implementing. We also face challenges of the negative trend in budgeting cycle, where most ministries, departments, and local governments have unutilized resources that usually go back to the government treasury. This is equivalent to last financial year, the one that we assessed. We found out that actually over like 5 trillion was unutilized. That's a very, very big challenge for us as a country, and I think we need to get solutions that we are going to give you the recommendation that we made in this report. And also, we noted that there were considerable delays and high costs of implementing government projects in almost all sectors, ranging from education, infrastructure, health, and whereby government has money that is taking it back, but you find there are some projects that are not being implemented. We have mismatch between the national priorities and regional needs. During budgeting and planning process, the Commission observed that there is a notable mismatch between national priorities and what is actually required in our regions. For example, when you go to Karamoja, you find that their priorities is water. But when we are here planning, we plan that we need to provide Karamoja with iron sheets.
That's right.
That's a very, very big mismatch when it comes to planning and budgeting. And that cuts across all regions. So our budgeting and planning needs to be informed by what is on the ground. I will take time to give you the recommendation that the Commission gave.
And I think, yeah, we can get into that. What recommendations have been proposed by the Commission so far?
Yeah, first of all, we have very many administrative units. Equal Opportunities Commission is recommending that we should stop, as a government, creation of districts and local government units, these administrative units, because they are the ones that increase the consumption items. We have also recommended to the government that there should be a government policy. On this government policy of rationalization and of government agencies and public expenditure, we need to extend it to local governments, to other government consumptive areas like ministries and departments where there exists a lot of duplication and wastage of resources. So we have recommended that there should be establishment of the Constitutional Review Commission that should actually carry out a comprehensive amendment of the Constitution so that those gaps where we have duplicative functions can be merged and reduce on the expenditure. We've not only stopped there, we have also recommended that we should minimize the supplementary budgets. Supplementary budgets is also another area where government have been losing a lot of money, and it is not a good planning and budgeting. We've also recommended that under the NDP4 that is coming this time, the country's national development goals should be prioritized so that fewer areas are concentrating with the highest multiplier effects in promoting employment, economic growth, wealth creation, and organization be given priority. Because if we only concentrate on what we have been doing and we don't target that one, it's going to affect us again in planning. So let us concentrate on seeing what does the region want, and we plan accordingly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. We are looking into the Equal Opportunities Commission report for the year 2024, dissecting it, trying to understand it further, and what are some of the key highlights of the same report. And I am having this conversation with James Mugisha, who is the Commissioner Compliance and Enforcement Equal Opportunities Commission, and also Susan Atukunda, Senior Research Officer, Equal Opportunities Commission. Now, coming to you, Susan, the report also highlights issues to do with salary disparities in the public service of Uganda, right? And one would wonder, what key observations regarding salary disparities in Uganda's public service are highlighted in the annual report?
Thank you, Olive. Good morning, viewers. Once again, my name is Susan Atukunda, a Senior Research Officer with the Equal Opportunities Commission, and it is a pleasure for me to be here to share some of the insights that we found within our report. Coming to your question, just a brief background, a brief history. In 2016, the Equal Opportunities Commission was the first government body to conduct a study on salary disparities in the public sector in Uganda. A number of observations were made, challenges were highlighted, and recommendations were made. So this year, due to petitions from various stakeholders, they asked the Commission to conduct a study on salary disparities, again in the public sector, and some of our objectives were to see if there has been progress from the previous report that we developed, and to also highlight the challenges that are still existing and to recommend. So some of the key observations this year, like I mentioned, we wanted to see if there's progress that has been made. We are happy to report that some progress has been made. Enhancements have been made for various professions. For example, the legal professions, we have seen enhancements there. We have seen enhancements for teachers. We have seen some enhancements among permanent secretaries, although this did not cut across all the other staff in the ministries, in the local governments. So some of the key observations we made, there are still disparities despite the progress made. And these include, for example, in the statutory agencies, looking at the CEOs of the various statutory agencies, we found that the highest earner, who, according to our sampled persons, who is the Commissioner General URA, earns about 64 million Ugandan shillings monthly. And while the CEO, Uganda Land Commission, earns about 2.3 million shillings monthly. And this means that the Secretary, Uganda Land Commission, will take about 27 years to earn the same amount as the Commissioner General in URA. These are people who we presume have the same qualifications, same years of experience at that level, among others. We also found out that, for example, in the local governments, we have cows who are heads of institutions. But you find that a cow who is a head of institution, who is also supposed to supervise a number of people in the local government, is earning about 3 times less compared to the people he is supervising. For example, a cow is earning 2.3 million shillings. By cow, I mean Chief Administrative Officer. While the people he or she is supervising, for example, the district health officer, the district natural resource officer, is earning about 6.5 million shillings. Just imagine that you are a boss and the people who are below you, the people who you're supervising, are earning much more than you. We also found disparities among teachers. For example, the science teachers are earning about 4.3 million shillings. These are science secondary school teachers. And while their counterparts, the arts teachers, are earning about 1.3 million shillings. Remember, these are the people with the same qualification, that is a bachelor's degree.
Yes.
These are the people, same years of experience. These are the people who are doing more or less the same work.
Yes.
In the schools, okay? So these disparities are glaring, and much as the decision to enhance salaries for science staff was good, it was justifiable, it has brought about unintended effects. For example, when you look at the schools, we are having high early retirement rates among the science teachers whose salaries were actually enhanced. And this is brought about because they want to gain from the high gratuity that comes with the high salary, and to concentrate on personal businesses as well. And we are seeing that these teachers are more engaged in personal businesses actually because of the increase in the salaries, and they are not really giving a lot of time to the work. And we found that some of them are actually hiring teachers who are not on the payroll to fill in the gap for them, okay? We also found effects such as high resignation rates, and this is especially among the arts teachers. And in the districts we visited, most of the human resource officers were informing us that on average daily they received 10 applications for resignation.
From arts teachers? From
arts teachers, and early retirement from science teachers, you see?
So the increment had far more negative effects than positive?
I'll not say far more, but like I mentioned earlier, much as the increment was a good decision, was justifiable, but it has brought about some effects, like I have highlighted. Okay. And there are also issues of morale. The morale is so low, and this is of course it affects performance in the end, because if you have staff who are not well motivated, that means they are not going to adequately deliver. So these are some of the key observations that we found out with regard to salary disparities in the public sector.
All right. Well, we are dissecting the Equal Opportunities Commission report for the year 2024. Now, on the issue of salary disparities, you've heard from Susan about some of the effects that came as, for example, as a result of the increment of salaries for teachers, science teachers, that is. They are seeking early retirement because with that comes a good amount of gratuity, and then because of zero morale or decreased morale among arts teachers whose salaries were not increased, we are getting resignation. So those are not really good effects, and I believe Susan and Mugisha here will tell us some of the recommendations they have given to the government regarding the same. But before we get into that, On the issue of taxation and levies in compliance to equal opportunities, what tax-related concerns or issues were highlighted by the Commission in its annual report on the state of equal opportunities in Uganda?
Thank you so much, Olive. Equal Opportunities Commission in its 11th annual report also did some study on taxation, and we found out that actually there is too much tax burden to the vulnerable, and this is caused by the taxation process in the country is not clear to most Ugandans. I don't know whether you were following last year and even earlier this year,
yes,
when they were talking of infris.
Yes,
most of us, yes, most of us Ugandans, we saw that that was like a tax.
That's true.
Yeah, so it is a very, very big problem for us as Ugandans when it comes to taxation. There are those tax holidays that are given to some high-profile companies, and you find that actually that one affects the tax base of this country. The money that is supposed to be collected from those who are doing more business, they are given tax holidays. Then you find these ones that have little income, they are the ones being targeted. So we are calling upon URA to stop going for low-hanging mangoes so that they go directly to see where we can generate more tax. There are very many issues that we found out when we are doing this study, and we found out that actually that we need to do a lot as a country to make sure that we help the vulnerable people to avoid taxation. There is this tax on tenants.
Yes.
It has promoted double taxation. You find KCC is going to come on your door. Before you arise, also URA is coming to you to ask for taxes. So that double taxation is not good for me who is paying that tax. As a landlord, at least we should harmonize that. Then we have also seen the high cost of doing business in Uganda. This is also affecting us as a country. There are small business owners, especially in rural areas, that cannot stand to do business because of these tax-related issues. And on top of that, these taxes include other areas like fuel, that you have to put in when you are doing business. There are materials that are made which becomes very, very expensive for someone doing a small business in Uganda to cope with the tax. There's this perceived inequity in tax collection, because when you are collecting tax, it should be progressive and it should be paid by each and everyone, and you know that it's going to help this country.
Right.
But when you know that even the tax that you are paying is not going to be put to the right use. You've seen most of the schools are not doing well.
Yes.
Our roads, especially like in Kampala, there is we are now phenomenous that it's a pothole city. I have heard some DJ mention that Kampala pothole city. Actually,
some people sometimes argue that the potholes are not in the roads are in the potholes.
Exactly. You reach somewhere, you find that they have even planted there some bananas that here, when you pass here, you will not actually get out. They have quoted some high-profile government officials, including the president, mentioning about our potholes here in Kampala. So it is a very, very big burden to pay tax, then it's not put to the right use. Even in health, we expected that when we collect tax, it should help our health facilities, yes, so that we also have good health facilities, but it's not doing the same. So it's a very big problem. As a country, we need to see how we can address this issue of tax. This multiple taxation is a very, very big challenge for us, and especially the vulnerable people who actually earn a small take-home at the end of the day. We've done some recommendations to that effect.
Yes, what are some? Because I like that you're highlighting all these problem areas, but it's important for us to know what recommendations are there.
Yes. Historically, tax policy reforms have been primarily focusing on revenue, potential proposals, and often neglecting these effects on poverty and inequity. We propose that discussions around tax policy should be prioritizing the impact and of various taxes, that what can we be doing for the poorest to make sure that they stay earning their income, and we avoid. Instead, these tax holidays that we are giving to these investors, we should be giving them to these Ugandans who are upcoming with businesses, so that we help them to cope up in business.
Yes.
We have also recommended that this double taxation that we are facing, URA and KCC, these urban authorities, they should harmonize and make sure that the tax that they are levying should be unique, and it should be targeting a certain area, but not double taxation.
How about the tax holidays to high-profile companies vis-a-vis the upcoming or SME businesses?
Those ones are okay as long as they are employing Ugandans, and they are employing many Ugandans, but they shouldn't also be prolonged. If they have given you a tax holiday for a period of 2 years, then the next 3 years you should be in position to pay taxes. But what we have seen, the study found out that actually these big companies, when they are given tax holiday of 10 years, after 10 years, they change the name, then they again ask to be given another tax holiday. When they have enjoyed the 10 years, now they camouflage and come up as if it's a new company and asking also for tax revenue, yet it is the same company that has been enjoying the tax holiday.
Okay, now that is not good at all.
Exactly. So we are not benefiting as a country. Instead, we are losing our revenue to these expatriates that come from out to come and enjoy our tax holiday, and at the end of the day, they run away with. And
now they will be profit repatriating to their countries.
Absolutely.
After not paying taxes for years.
For many, many years.
Okay, now that's discouraging. But coming back to you, Susan, before we move on to the next chapter, when you did mention the salary disparities earlier on, especially in the education sector, though I believe that this cuts across in many government ministries and agencies and departments. So what are some of the recommendations that were given to the government regarding the same?
Thank you, Olive. We made a number of recommendations to begin with, and mainly the country needs a salary review commission. So we need this commission to harmonize salaries, to bridge the gaps where there are disparities, to bring about equity, in compensation for staff of similar qualifications, similar roles, similar years of experience, among others. We also recommended that entities which are receiving money from the consolidated fund should have the same salary structure or payments overall. Because if we are all receiving money from the same place, why then should we have disparities in salaries, in compensations in salaries? We also recommended that the Ministry of Public Service should fast track implementation of the enhancement plan, the salary enhancement plan, such that the long-term pay targets can be achieved. I know the salaries are being enhanced in a phased manner, but they are being enhanced in a phased manner, but some of us people in various institutions are suffering because this enhancement plan is taking a bit of time, and creating more disparities actually, because recently, I think last week, head teachers who are of a science background were not earning salaries of persons of a science background, like the teachers they are supervising. But last week in news, there was an article showing salaries of head teachers who are of a science background have been enhanced. Now, head teachers who are not of a science background are still earning the former pay. So we need,
and yet they're doing the same work.
Exactly the same work. So we need this review commission to sit and look into these issues. You know, look at people of same qualifications, same job, same work you're doing.
Same job description.
You know, exactly. And harmonize all these gaps, all these disparities.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, Susan, let's look now at chapter 6, and here I would like for us to have a closer look at universal secondary school education and universal primary education. What key issues did you find out regarding school fees in USE and UPE schools and university government sponsorships, scholarships?
Okay. To begin with, the government in 1997 introduced universal primary education.
Yes.
And this is a free education, supposed to be free education for all, right from primary 1 to primary 7. And still in 2007, the government introduced universal secondary education. This is free education for secondary school students from senior 1 to senior 4. But this is supposed to be free. But as a commission, we found out that our schools were charging different fees, and yet they are under UPE and USE. For example, under UPE, we sampled about 110 schools. And we found that these schools are charging fees ranging from 4,000 shillings to 174,000 shillings. We also found out that in universal secondary education schools that we sampled, schools were charging between 30,000 shillings to 364,000 shillings. This money may look less to an average Ugandan, but a poor person, a person living in a rural area, this is a lot of money.
And what was the explanation?
And they can't afford it.
Fees?
Now, the explanations were that some of the schools were charging fees due to UNEB registration fees. They also mentioned that parents do not give their children food, so some of the fees were charged to provide children with food. They mentioned issues to do with payment of utilities in the schools. Then some of the teachers mentioned they were charging to compensate some of the teachers who are not on the payroll, to compensate some of the arts teachers who have not got this enhancement, to motivate them a bit, you know. And some mentioned that the capitation grant that they receive from the government is inadequate. For example, in UPE, each child is given 20,000 shillings for a year. And remember, a school has 3 terms. So divide 20,000 shillings by 3. That is about 7,000 or so. And this is really inadequate to look after a child in a school for a whole term. So some schools mentioned that they were charging because the money received, the capitation grant received from government is low. But we also found out that there are schools which are non-USE schools. These are government schools, but they are not under the USE program. But these schools are receiving money from the government, and yet the fees they charge is much more than the fees charged in first world private schools.
I think I've seen a report to that effect, and some of the schools were mentioned. I don't know if you're comfortable mentioning some of those. But yes, some of them were charging as much as 3 million shillings a term, and yet they get some money from the government.
Yes, and this defeats the logic of government aid, because we have schools which are grappling, which are receiving less money for capitation grant, and these which are doing well are receiving more on top of that. So as a commission, we recommend maybe these funds should be reallocated to the schools which need them the most. The schools that need these funds the most. And moving on to the university scholarships, there are a number of findings. To begin with, we found that there are regional disparities in access to these scholarships. For example, Buganda South, Buganda North, and Ankole sub-regions were taking the lion's share of these scholarships. For example, Buganda, they were, for the 2 financial years that we audited, Buganda South was having about 600 scholarships each financial year. Ankole 300 scholarships and above each financial year. Same applies to Buganda North. And then we have sub-regions such as Karamoja. For example, Karamoja in financial year 2023-24 had only 12 students who received these scholarships. Imagine a whole sub-region. And they further reduced to 7 in financial year 2024-2025. You see? Sub-regions like Acholi had about 58 students receiving the scholarships. And West Nile, Lango, and these are the poor sub-regions, you know. And some of the reasons actually are because there are inadequate schools in these sub-regions. They face high poverty levels whereby you find students can't be supported to be able to compete nationally, you know. And these schools that are the sub-regions that are having a high number of students benefiting from these scholarships, you find that these are the sub-regions with the good schools.
I was coming to that because when you mentioned Buganda South and Buganda North and Ankole region receiving the most scholarships, because one, I want us to clarify on something, that students that get these scholarships, are they from all tribes but within schools within the region, or they are from a certain tribe? Because some people may hear you say that and be like, oh, so the Waganda are getting more scholarships than the rest of the country. Please clarify on that.
Okay, so this study was based on the home district of the student. I at Kunda will be studying in Chitende, but I come from Rokonjeri district.
Okay.
So much as I'm studying in a school in Buganda, I come from Rokonjeri district, and that is where I was considered. You understand? Not that I'm at Kunda in Chitende and I am taken in Buganda South, no.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So it means people in Buganda are getting more scholarships.
Exactly.
Okay. Is it because of the quality of schools within the regions?
Yeah, I was
within
still
Ankole and Buganda.
Yeah, I was still explaining that. When you look at Buganda, South, North, Ankole, there are a number of good schools which are here. The schools are good quality schools. They are charging high fees, and the parents can afford. And by the way, when you look at the poverty levels, for example, Karamoja region, looking at monetary poverty, they are at 65.6%, and it is even higher in Acholi at 66.7%. Now, when you compare to regions such as Kampala, poverty is about 1.6 or so. You see the variation is high. So the poor continue suffering while the rich continue being rich and going higher, even in terms of access to education. And but also the number of students accessing scholarships were high in Buganda and Ankole and so on, because these sub-regions also have big numbers of people. We can't deny that fact. So because of the big numbers, and we know that that is why some of them are accessing these scholarships more. And also other factors that are highlighted within the report. And still about the scholarships, we found out that it is the children of the rich who are accessing these national merit scholarships. It is children from schools like St. Mary's Chitende, this one I'll mention, it is in the report. Schools like Mengo Secondary Schools, these are not schools of the poor. These are schools where rich parents are taking their children. You find that the fees these schools are charging are much higher than what a parent would spend on university education.
That's right.
Okay.
I've seen courses at Chambogo University that are as low as 800,000
Exactly.
shillings. But then secondary schools are charging 1.5, 2 million, 2.5, 3 million, and going up.
Exactly. So you find that the students are accessing these scholarships. They are from the rich backgrounds, and the government is not putting consideration into issues to do with needs. Who needs this the most?
Now, Susan, looking at the sub-regions that you have mentioned, like the Karamoja sub-region, Acholi and Lango, what are the recommendations government should employ? Putting in mind that you have also, the report also mentions that these regions also don't have good quality schools that can compete favorably as compared to schools, let's say, from the Uganda region and Ankole region and other regions that are doing great.
Actually, this issue should be tackled from the grassroots, because even when you look at PLE performances, UCE performance and USCE performance, we did a report on the same last year. These are still the same regions which are performing poorly. So the issue should begin from the grassroots. They should equip the primary schools, the secondary schools in the region. They should put them at the standards of the schools we are seeing in Buganda, in Ankole, among others.
Yes.
They should be revamped, they should be supported, such that these children from these sub-regions can also compete favorably, just like their counterparts.
Well, thank you, Susan. Now going back to you, Mr. James Mugisha. Could you elaborate on the justice needs of Ugandans as outlined in the 2024 report?
Thank you, Olive. Before coming to justice, I wanted to supplement on Susan's the policy. What should government do? We all we are aware that already there is a policy that each and every sub-county there should be a government secondary school, but that one has not been put in place. There's up to now we still have sub-counties that don't have secondary schools. We also know that each and every primary school should have at least a primary school at a parish level. But when you go to those regions she was mentioning, in those sub-regions of Karamoja, you find an entire parish with no primary school. So government should look into that to make sure that at least that one is implemented for children in rural areas, especially those hard-to-reach areas, they access school. It's very, very important, because it does not only stop at going to school, but it goes ahead to employment where she started from. Because for you to be employed, you should have gone to school.
Yes.
You should have attained some qualifications.
That's right.
But now those sub-regions that do not have primary schools in a parish, you don't have a secondary school, so that means that you are denying those Ugandans access to education. Not only access to education, but you are going to deny them access to employment. So now the process goes on, and poverty is going to remain in the same. So
at the end of the day, poverty alleviation will be a myth.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to justice needs of Ugandans, please elaborate on some of the highlights in the report.
Yeah, thank you, Olive. This report actually has identified many challenges. We still have big challenges of access to justice as a country. We've found out that actually the biggest challenge that is caused by land disputes, that was the highest percentage. People fight for land. Children are killing their parents because of land. Neighbors are fighting themselves because of land. We've seen land grabbing by high-profile people. So that was one of the biggest challenge of land, and people did not have say on that. We've seen domestic violence. It's also on the high increase. The gender-based violence. My friends were teasing me that as men from Bushenyi, we are being battered by our women. It's now the other way around. Men used to batter women, but now women have also turned their gun against men. The report showed that actually Bushenyi men are most, they are the ones facing gender-based violence.
The most?
The most.
Okay.
And being a man, you don't even have the courage to report. So there are few that actually go and report. We've seen other challenges of marriage and divorce. Those ones also have been identified in our report. Most legal matters concerning the marriage and divorce, including custody and division of property after separation, has caused a lot of rift. We've seen some shootings, people killing their husbands, husbands killing their wives when it comes to that area.
Yes.
The report also found out the high criminal cases that are in this country. Ugandans encounter various criminal issues, and they are amorphous. We've also, the report also found out that there is violence and assault. This one has even gone to the level of parliament. We've seen some MPs, assaulting each other.
Yes.
So these cases are with us, and we are living with them. There is this safety of crops and animals in the rural areas. And those are also other cases that
where people are wondering, is it safer to protect wildlife than the communities that live next to them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and some people were even making jokes that you find somebody is putting a cage for the chicken, but the animal, which is big, a cow, stays the other side, outside, and at the end of the day, the cows are stolen. Yes, our chairperson has actually been telling us that you don't need even to go deep in the villages to ask that people here around Kampala, they are losing coffee. When they harvest their coffee, they put it somewhere, it is taken, that even before harvesting it, they are stealing it when it's still green. When it has started ripening, they are stealing it. So theft of crops has also been a big challenge, and also bribes. Now, when we go to bribes, corruption within the justice system, it is too high and uncontrollable. It has become a big challenge for this country. Individuals pursuing legitimate legal remedies is still a big crisis. So we've found out that there are very, very many issues, and accessing justice has become a problem
in the country.
To redress in the country,
well,
to address these issues.
Mr. Mugisha, what would be, regarding that, on the backdrop of those last findings, what would be your parting remarks as we come to the end of our conversation?
I wanted to first of all give the recommendation that we would address, but because of time, I think I'll not go into that.
The recommendations could be your parting remarks.
Okay. Yeah, we want to advise our government on these high costs of accessing justice, because it's only Equal Opportunities Commission where you walk in with a challenge and they'll not ask you for any legal fees, they'll not ask you for a lawyer. The Equal Opportunities will represent you to address those issues. They even pay transport refund to the witness. So we'd want this one to cut across all government agencies that are trying to redress the injustice, so that citizens, especially the vulnerable persons who cannot access courts, can be helped to access justice. Justice delayed is justice denied. We've seen many complaints lagging on long and long because of absenteeism of these officers in courts. We want to advise government to put a policy on how they can make sure that these courts, wherever they are available, people should be there to attend to the clients. Some regions do not have these judiciary courts. When you go to the MP for Buvuma was telling us that for them they only see a magistrate once a week, and when it has rained, he will not show up.
Wow.
So it is a big challenge. People in that area to access justice is a very big problem. Even other areas, not only Buvuma, but most islands in Uganda, they do not have those magisterial courts to help them address issues of justice. So I want to conclude by saying that people should support the vulnerable persons to access justice in all areas of Uganda, not only in urban areas, but also in rural areas, including the local areas.
Well, thank you so much. We have been dissecting the Equal Opportunities Commission Report 2024. And to do this, I've been speaking with James Mugisha, who is the Commissioner Compliance and Enforcement, Equal Opportunities Commission, and also Susan Atkunda, who is the Senior Research Officer, Equal Opportunities Commission. Thank you so much for coming through.
You're welcome. Olive.
Thank you, Susan, for coming through.
Thank you.
Well, Good Morning Uganda does continue. Up next, sports updates with Ruben Pima Chibirang.